Hello guys, this is the tutorial about how to render nparticles and nparticle instances in Arnold in Maya. And we'll be changing the materials based on the age. So as you can see, as the particle instances are just born, they transparent and then they become opaque. And they also changing the color. Here they are blue, but once they are getting older, they are yellow. And we will be rendering simple particles as well as the particle instances in Maya. I spent so much time to figure out this on Maya forum and also by watching some Pluralsight tutorials. So I decided to share this knowledge with you so you don't waste your time on looking for this information. Uh, and we'll be using for the nparticles is a little bit different. We'll be using AI user data float node and AI user data color node, as you can see I was using here. But for the simple particles, just particle sampler info node will do the job. And we'll be playing with these widgets here. I will show you. As you can see here, we'll be changing opacity scale, opacity color, but of course this is not enough, so we'll have to add some, make some shading networks. So let's get dive into it. I'll just go and create quickly our collision object firstly. Will be our colliding that our particles collide with, and color create passive, you press N close and create passive collider in order to have this as a collider. And now I will create another plane. I will scale it like so. And will be our emitter. So let's go to nparticles and here under the create emitter, actually create options, set it to points. And now nparticles emit from object. Let's see what we have at the moment. At the moment we have just particles emitted like that from vertices. So let's change this pattern because this is not very good. They are emitting by using this grid. If I select this plane, as you can see here is the vertices, so they are emitted from all of these points. Quickly let's go to the nparticle shape here under the emitter, change it from omni to the surface, and now if I click and play back this, they are emitting from everywhere on the surface. So let's make them so we can see them better. Let's go to the shading here under nparticle shape. Here we have the shading options. Change it from the points to the spheres so we can see them better. Also here under the under particle size, let's change their radius. Okay, so now maybe let's bring this a little bit higher, this plane, maybe like this. They are a little bit slow, so I will quickly go here to the emitter and under the basic emission options, I will change this to 5 and normal speed to -5, so they are emitting a little bit faster. This is good. Now under the shading options and particle shape, under the shading, let's play with the color a little bit. For the white, I will change it to the bluish color maybe, and this one will be maybe yellowish. But as you can see, nothing changed because we have a lot of here under the color input. We can emit these particles based on speed, acceleration, radius, and others. I will choose age. So they are changing color based on how they are newly born or they are old. So as you can see, those that are just born, they are blue, and then the gradient happening because we have it. We can regulate this gradient here, or we can use input max to change this gradient. But you can see it more clear when we emit more of them, as you can see by using this scroll wheel, we can change this gradient. Also, to make this transition more harsh or smooth, just play with these colors, with these sliders here. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I will make the transition more harsh. Also, we have color randomize, so we have something like this if we want to use this. But in this case, I don't want to use this. Let's quickly render this in Arnold and see what we have. Nothing, of course, because we don't have the light source. In Arnold, the quickest way to create the light is go to the light and add the Skydome light. Now we can render it. Here we go. As you can see what is happening, if I come closer here, they have a little bit glossiness or specularity, so-called. So they reflect this white color light that we have on the background. Why this is happening? Because by default, all of these particles, if we go to the if we select this particle and go to the hypershade, and if I click this button here, you may not see all of these nodes but we need to see them. So right click, show object, and click clear below. So we will see all of the nodes that we need to see. So let's just select all of these nodes and I will rearrange a little bit this graph like this. So let's come here and see what we have. So by default, the particles using this Boolean node. There are some nodes appear that we don't need, so I'll click this minus button so we don't see them. This node we don't need, this node we don't need. We just need the nodes that are responsible for the colors. So here we have now our particle sampler info node. This is our Boolean node, and if we go here and change the specularity, I'll render this again with Arnold. Okay, so let's see what is happening here. So they are specular, but now if I come over here and let me select them again, selecting this Boolean, and here under the specular, if I change everything to 0, they are becoming, they have just diffuse and no specularity. Eccentricity, we don't need all of that for this tutorial. But if you want, you can keep it. But I will change that like so. Now, for the opacity, we need select this particle, and under the particle shape and under the Arnold tab, we need to uncheck opaque. This will make sure that the Arnold will be use the transparency as it should. So let's change this. So let's add AI standard surface shader. And let's connect. Okay, here is the color finally. Out color, we set it to base, and out transparency, we set it to opacity. We use it as an input to the AI standard surface. Now let's see if we still can render it. I will play back it. Okay. but Arnold still doesn't uh, we still don't see them opaque, and the reason for that, why we don't see the opacity at the beginning, because we need here under the nParticle shape. We didn't do what we have done with the H of the color, so let's change this one as well. So they will be transparent at the beginning and they will be opaque at the end, and change this to H. Now in the viewport we can see that something has already happened, and we can see them transparent at the beginning and at the end they are opaque, but here we don't see. So render, I will try update full scene. Sometimes we need to play this again. Render this again now. Okay, so nothing still happens. Let's see what we have missing here. We have missed opaque is unchecked. This is good. Under the shading. Okay, of course I forgot to connect this to the nParticle point surface. Was my missing step. So now render this again. There we go. Now we have them a little bit transparent at the beginning and then opaque at the end, and also the colors are changing. Let's continue with the nParticle instance. So what is nParticle instance? It's any shape, any object. Let's say you have the shape of even the human character, you can emit the humans, or you can emit the animals here if you have that object. But we will just play with a simple cone object for now. Select your cone. Let's go to the nParticle and go to the instancer and click this button. Frost particle, I will call it like this. Everything leave by default and click create. So there we go. We can see our instance object. They are exactly on the same location where our particles are. If you don't want to see the particles and you just want to see the cones, let's go to the actually straight away under the cone shape until I forgot under the Arnold, uncheck opaque, so we can render the cones uh, opacity as well, how it's working in Arnold. Here under the opacity you can change this, but remember to put it back when you want to render it with Arnold. So for example, I'll show you later, but for now, to see them better, you just leave them a little bit. So the next step will be is to have the colors of the particles of our cones have the same colors that our particles having. So to do this, let's come back to the hypersheet, and we have already quite a few nodes that we don't need here. This one we don't need. So for this, let's create actually I will just select my cones from here, and I right click on this space here, and I will go and assign new material shader, AI standard surface shader, and I will here rename this. I'll just add cone at the end, cone, so we know that this is the shader for the cone. Now I'll just go here and I will add Then you should now go to the Nparticle shape first. And here under the shading, actually under the Arnold, we need to enter magic word here under the export attributes RGB PP. That's it. Now here where we have the hypershade, our cone shader, as you can see, I'm just pressing tab and AI user data color. This is the node we need to use. Connect this color to base color, select it, and here we have to enter the same name, RGBPP, which is mean red, green, blue uh, per particle. Okay, so now I guess we should have something. We will not see this in the display, but if we render it in Arnold, you remember I've changed the lighting, set the lighting to black, so it has to be white here. So let's come back to the Arnold, render it. And there we go. Our Nparticle instances now have the same color that our particles have. Okay, let's make the same for the opacity now of the cones. The opacity of the cones will have to add another node here, AI user data float, and another node AI range, not random, AI range. And let's connect this to the out value to the input R, G, and B. There we go. And connect this to the opacity. Now here we need to enter magic word opacity per particle. And here where we have Nparticle, under the Arnold tab, enter the second word, make the space here and enter opacity per particle as well. There we go. Now it should work. With fingers crossed, I hope it will work now. Yeah, there we go. We can see that our cones, they slightly transparent at the beginning and then they become fully opaque. And if we go here to the Nparticle, and you don't want the sphere to, if you don't want the spheres to be in your render view, particle shape, what you need to do is here under the Arnold, set the radius to radius multiplier to 0. So now you just see our cones and no particles inside these cones where they were before. So I'll just stop it for now because it's computer is getting slowly. So and maybe now I will click this, and if we wanna change any of these guys, we can. But Arnold doesn't update this in the render view, so maybe update full screen. Okay, because I've just changed this, as you can see, they just shifted their colors to the bottom. Now we shifted them a little bit back, so update full scene. And update full scene. And there we go. Uh, so another thing I can show you is how to change the radius of them based on age. It's very simply to do. You can do it here by using the same technique and set it to age, but only the spheres. This is only for this particle, simple particle that are, if I hide my cons, this one. So this is the size for these particles. As you can see, they are when they born they are small and then they are big. Uh, so the way you do this for your instances is here. How you change the radius for them under the object display. No, not under instances. Click this button and under the scale, go to the radius per particle. Now unhide your cons, and now your particle per instances have the same size that your main particles are. So there we go. This is what we have in our Arnold render view. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Hope it was useful. We'll see you next time.